today we talk about that how to create the members in the outline. Okay. So what we discussed about that the dimension properties and that data storage properties, consolidation properties. Okay. So now we got some idea about the outline, space outline. So next step, just how we going to update that space outline. Okay. So like we go that space console. Okay. So just we go to launch it from that web page and we go to log in into the space admin services. Okay. So for that we have our ID should be provisioned with the admin access. Okay. So this is a space console. I am just logging with the admin ID. I'm providing the username and password. Okay. So once logged in, you will be seeing the list of space applications. Okay. For example, this is a sample application and the basic is the database, and here I have the outline. Okay. So if you right click on the outline, there will be three options. Okay. One is view, edit, and unlock. Okay. View means just you can read the members. You cannot update anything. Okay. For example, our database is doing some data load or it's doing some dimension build. Okay. During that time, we cannot modify the outline. If you try to lock the outline, it will corrupt the database application, or there will be some misbehavior in the outline. Okay. So during the data load or some other activity, we should not touch the outline. So better to open that outline in the view mode. Okay. That's the read only mode. Okay. And the another option is edit. Just we can edit the outline. We can update the members and its properties. Okay. And another one is unlock. For example, I am using the outline. Okay. And you are also admin. You want to update something in the outline. Okay. So in that time, just you can unlock that outline. Okay. So that you will be getting the control. So in some case user may be using the outline, they may not close the outline. Okay, in that case, if you want to take the controls, maybe you can just unlock that outline. Okay, so that outline will be automatically closed. Okay, so you will be taking the control over the outline. And optimize, we don't use it. Okay, so optimize mean like in the outline. One second. For example, we go uh, these members in the outline. Okay, so the account year and period are dense dimension, and other dimensions are sparse dimensions. Okay, so when you do that outline design, first we have to place that account dimensions. Okay, so this is a dense dimension, and it should be placed in the first position in the outline. Okay, and next will be keeping the year dimension. Okay, next to the account. And after the year we'll be placing the field dimension. Okay, next we go to place a sports dimension, and it's based on the number of members available in the sports dimension. For example, under the entity we have around 100 members. Okay, in customer we have around 50 members, and the product has around 600 members. Okay, so in that case we go to place that product dimension after that period dimension. Okay, because it has that huge number of members. Okay, so first we go to place a product first dimension, and after that we go to place a entity dimension, and and after the entity we go to add that customer dimensions. Okay, this is how we order that dimension in the outline to increase the performance of the calculation and data retrieval. Okay, and once we added the dense and sparse standard dimension, we go to add the attribute dimensions. So if we click on the optimize, I think it will do some automatic optimization. Okay, I never tried that. I think this feature is not available in the latest version of the Essbase. So just
What
you
is
can
that?
ignore it.
Which one?
The optimize. We go the
Okay. Okay. Okay.
I never used that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So now I have opened that outline. Okay. And already we have added few members. Okay. I want to update some properties of the member. Okay. So just you go to right click on that a specific member, and here it will show you that edit member properties, then result levels and everything. Okay, you can cut it and paste it in some other hierarchy, or you can replace it. If you want to delete, you can delete that. Okay, but if you are deleting that member, make sure that you have that proper backup, because it will clear the data as well for that specific member. Okay, and if you want to add child to that member, you can add it, and also you can add a sibling. You can rename the member. Okay, so these are the properties of the member. These are the tasks we can perform, okay, in the outline. And now I want to update that properties of the member. Okay. Okay. So here we have the name, to pause calculation, and type, uh, associate format string, command consolidation, data storage, and alias. Okay. If you want to change that name of that member, you can change it. It's like renaming this member. Okay. And if you want to enable that true pass calculation, you can just set it to true. Otherwise, by default, it's false. Okay. And type, it's a numeric member. And we don't use that associate format string and command, or we rarely use it. Okay. And here we go the consolidation properties, like we go the mathematical operators, addition, subtraction, division. Okay, those operators we have it under consolidation. And here we go the data storage. Either we can set to store data or dynamic calc or dynamic calc, and store. Okay, and alias, it's like description of that member. Okay, we can add some detailed level phrases. Okay. This is a member, and here this one we call this member name, and this one we call it as alias. If you want to retrieve the data based on the alias, that's possible. Just we can set that alias name in the small v and retrieve the data. Either we can use member name or the alias. Okay. Here it has some meaningful name to that member name. Okay. And next one, we have the attributes, associations, UDS, and formula. For example, if you look at that member, right, it's associated with a few attributes. Okay, so if you want to create associations, just we can do it. Okay, sorry. So these are the consolidation operators, and these are the data storage properties. Okay. Okay, so from here we can make the association to the member. With the left side we go the attributes. Oh, sorry, right side we go the list of attributes, and left side just we can make that assignments. Okay, and here we go that attribute, the list of attributes we have created. Just we can make that assignment. Okay. And
Okay.
and also we can okay. So in that formula, just we can create our own script. Like if there is any member formula, just we can add that formula, and we can verify that. Okay. And also we can add the UDS. If you want to create add UDS, just you go to manually use a meaningful name. Okay. And formula in the left side, or we have all that functions related to that formula. Like there are many mathematical functions. Like if you want to find sum or average, we can use that functions. Okay. Okay. Now I go set up the member properties. Okay. So this is how we add the new dimension. For example, I want to add one new customer dimension. Okay, there are two ways. One is we can add it to the through the role file, and another way just we can manually add it in the console. Okay, so just click on that outline, the root member, and here you will be seeing the add child. add sibling. Okay, so just you go to click on the add sibling. So sorry, add child. It will create one text box to create a new member. Okay, so just I manually type that name of the member and just saving it. Okay, so next one, I added the customer, and under the customer I have to add few children. So here we go that another option to add that child, add a child to the selected member. Okay, just I'm clicking on that and manually typing that name of the children. Okay, so this is how we add that members to the specific dimension. Okay, and the next one, once we have updated all the members, we have to save that outline. Okay, so when you perform that save operation, it will restructure that entire cube. Okay, we call it as restructuring. If you make any if you make any changes to the dense member, it will perform the dense restructure. If you make any changes to the spots restructure, it will do the spots restructure. Restructure means it will recreate the block, data block. Okay. If it is a dense restructure, it will take some time. It's based on that volume of that cube. If it's very huge, then it will take around 30 minutes to 40 minutes. Okay. If it's a spots restructure, it will take around 10 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes. Okay. And if you make any minor changes like alias name or data properties update, it won't take much time. Within a second, it will complete. Okay. So whenever you do some changes in the outline, you have to save the outline. Okay? And also make sure that it should not affect the other like see if you are running many application in the cube, okay, and you are also doing some dense restructure on this cube, okay, it will impact the performance of the server. Okay, so and also if any users are connected to that space application, they will be disconnected. Okay, so you have to do it in that you have to have some maintenance time to perform these kind of activities. Okay? Otherwise, it will impact the business users. Okay, so next one here we get the outline, and next to the outline we go the properties of the outline. Okay, so in the properties we go the we can update the few properties like whether the members are case sensitive members, and outline type by default it's block storage, and we can enable duplicate members, and type measures we got type measures mean, for example, we have the account dimension. So under the account we will be creating many text member. Okay, but if you want to create some numerical members or the date members, if you want that feature, then we have to enable type measures enabled. Okay, it should be set to true so that you can uh, include other dimension type like date, time, numeric values, text like that. Okay, and here we have the date format, and we can enable the varying attribute of features, and alias table or like usually we have the default alias table. I already told you, right? We can create alias name for each member. Okay, and also we can maintain some alias table. Okay, like we can create our own table and update the alias name. Okay, for example, the member has. Okay, here we go the aliases. And we have updated the default alias table. And also, if we want to use one more name, okay, for the same member, we can use other alias table. Here I have created long names as yet alias table. Okay, so for the same member, we can have multiple alias. Based on the alias table, it will display in that report. And these are the for the attribute settings. Okay, this one I never used that. Mostly we don't use that. Okay.
Uh,
Okay, so these are that's it about the member properties. Okay, now I have designed the outline. Okay, so next, once that outline is ready, the next procedure will be load the data. we're going to bring the data to the Essbase application. Okay. So this is the procedure we follow to load the data. Okay, first we go to set up the data source, and once the data source is ready, we'll be creating the rule file. Okay, it's based on the requirement. Okay, for example, if you are loading the data through the smart view or some other method, we don't need that rule file. Okay, but mostly we'll be using the rule file to load the data, and once the data is loaded, we'll be sorry, once that rule is created, we will be doing the data load or dimension build. Okay, using the same rule, we can perform two activities: data load and dimension build. And also we can perform separately. We can create separate rule file to perform data load and dimension build. Okay, it's based on our requirement. Okay, so once the data load is completed, we can work with the aggregation, the calculation script. So about the data source detail. So the data source file should have the data value, and also it should have that information about the members. Okay. For example, I'm going to load data for this point of view. Okay. So data source file, the source file should looks like this. Okay. First, I go to have that the member, the dimension. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Here I have to provide that point of view for that the record, the data. Okay. So in the source file, if you're going to load some data, they say data should have that member information. Like it should have that details about the point of view. Like there should be some intersection for this data, right? For example, this which year and period and the data belongs to either whether it's actual or budget data. So those details should be available in the data source. Just we cannot simply load only one data cell. Okay, if you're going to load the data, you should have all that information about that point of view. We call it as intersection. So for this intersection, we're going to load that $100. Okay, creating data block for each and every transaction, then there will be huge number of data block. Okay, so it will combine the sparse dimension. For example, here the dense dimension is common. Okay, next I'm going to load the data for this one. This is for the product 2. Okay, I got some values. Okay, and also for the product 3, I got some values. Okay, so for this combination, it will create a data block because the dense dimensions are the same, right?
Correct.
Okay, so it will create only one data block for this intersection. It won't
For this
create it for
intersection.
it won't create for every transaction. So data block is combination of sparse dimension, and also the dense dimension should be exist in the data block. So this is how we define the data block. It's a combination of both dense and sparse dimension. For that combination of sparse dimension, the data should be exist.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
for this combination, the data should be exist, and also it includes the dense dimensions.
Includes the dense dimension too.
Yeah, for example, for this one, we don't have data. Okay, so
Okay.
while creating the data block, Essbase will exclude this transaction. So it will create data block only for this combination.
Two records only. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. It's actually it's we have to Essbase use both dense and sparse dimension to create the data block. Okay, it not only based on the spot, but also the dense dimensions are involved. Okay, so the source file should have that data value and the information about the members. Okay, And also, if you're going to do that, here we are talking about the data load. Okay. For the data load, we have to provide that members and it's the data. Okay. We provide the intersection and its data. And if it's the dimension build, in the dimension build source file, there won't be any data because we're going to import only the master data, right? That metadata. Okay.
Right.
So here only we provide that member details, and for each and every member, we have to provide that member properties. Okay. For example, if it is EU, we go to provide which data storage. It's stored member.
Right.
And for FI21, it's
Right.
the dynamical, and like that we go to provide the member properties. And here I have added only one member properties. Similarly, to provide that the consolidation operators like plus, minus, or like that. Okay. And also you can, if you have any alias name, you have to add it in that dimensional build source file. Okay. We have to provide all the information in the dim build.
Okay.
I give you another example. For example, I am going to add product one to the outline, okay, using the rule file. So for the product one, so this is a child member, and I have to give the parent details as well. Okay, so the product one should be added under entity dimension. Okay, so this is a parent of product one. Okay, and I go to provide the LS. LS may be okay, and I have to provide data storage property. It's a stored member. And next one, consolidation. Okay. And if there is any attributes, we go to add it here. Okay. So this is how the source file looks for the one specific dimension. I can I like I can add all the dimensions at using the same rule file, and also I can add on the specific dimension using the rule file. Okay. I can, if you're going to add all the dimension member, then you have to provide all the details in that file. Okay. So anything is possible in the rule file. So this is how the dimension build rule file should looks like this. Okay. So we provide a generation and the levels names, and if there is any currency property, then we have to provide currency name and category, and data storage property, attributes, and UDS. Okay. And these are the supported data sources. Okay. Essbase support or text files, the flat files. Okay. The flat files may be uh, comes with the delimiter like comma separated or pipes delimiter. Okay. And also we can have the SQL data sources like either we can use MS SQL or we can use Oracle database. Okay. And usually we for example, I can directly export the data from the Essbase application. Just right click on the Essbase application and export it into some text file. Okay. And the same file can be imported into the same application. Okay. So that we call it as Essbase export file. Okay. And also we can write some script to export the data out of the Essbase application. Okay. So that same file can be imported into the same application or some other application. So that's we call it as Essbase export file. Okay. And this one MS spreadsheet file. So we can use the Excel data to load into that space. And also we use the audit log file. We never use this one. Okay. And we can directly integrate with Oracle BI or OBA. So these are the data sources for Essbase applications. I think I already showed you. We can just log in, send the data through the smart view. We can connect into Essbase application using the smart view add-in, and we go to set the intersection. Okay, like this. So like this, we go to set that point of view, and we can submit the data. Here we go option to submit the data in smart view. Okay,
Oh, okay.
there is
Okay.
another way. If
Okay.
if there is a business users wants to submit the data for some specific transaction, maybe for they want to upload some sales data, then they will be using the smart view. Okay, mostly business users will be using the smart view. Okay, but if it's we are updating that content data, we are loading something the regular base or the daily basis, then we'll be using the role file. Okay, so that process will be automated using the Maxwell the scripts. Okay, so we talked about supported data source or the okay, how we load the data. Free-form data loading, manual data loading. Manual data loading means we can do it through the smart view, and data load using rule file means just we can create some rule file and load the data. And this one free form, like we can, I already told, right? We can export the data from Essbase and re-import into the Essbase application. So that's we call it as free form data loading. So, so these are the items in the data source. We'll be having some header, okay, and it has a record. In the record, we call each and every field as a field. Every cell is called as a field in the data source file, and it will be delimited by any operator, maybe that comma, tab delimiter, or the pipe symbol. Okay, so this is how the data source file looks like this. So these are the valid delimiters, tabs, spaces, new lines, carried returns, commas. So here we have the raw data file, and using the rule file, the data will be loaded into a space cube. Okay, so in the rule file, we'll be performing the mapping. For example, this is a data source file. So this is a data source file. I got it from the ERP system or Oracle database. Okay, I got it from some other sources, and this record should be imported into a space application. Okay, so just we cannot directly import into the Essbase application. If it is a free form, that means if it is export from some other Essbase application, just we can directly import it into Essbase Cube. Okay, but we got these details from some other system, some other ERP system. Okay, so we received the data source file from ERP system, and that file should be imported into Essbase application. So before importing, we have to create a mapping. So this is the entity member, and this is the year, this period, this scenario, this is missions, and this is product. Okay, and this is data. Okay. We have to provide the instruction to a space to find out these members. Okay, for example, in the here we go that rule file. We go to create the rule file. In the rule file, we go to perform the mapping. Field field one. Okay, so the basic rule file looks like this only. It has a field. Okay, so the entity will be mapped to the field one in the space application. Okay, and here will be mapped to field two, and the period will be mapped to field three. Okay, so like this, we create a mapping in a space. Okay. Now we go set up the rule file. Once we have set up the rule file, just we can execute that data load rule file and import the data. Once we created the mapping between source file and the space. Okay. So to create the mapping, we have to design the rule file. Okay. So there are few steps. We follow few procedure to create that rule file. So these are the build method. We can build the dimension using generation reference, level reference, and parent cell reference. Okay, I'll tell you. So just go to that Essbase application. There you will be seeing that option rule file. Okay, so just right click on the rule file and select create rule files. Okay, it will create one new rule.
Okay.
Okay, so this is a rule file in Essbase. Okay, it has that fields, a number of fields. Field 1, field 2, and here we go that the properties in the rule file. Like if it is the data load, we go to update the data load properties. If you're going to perform only the dimension build, then you go to provide a mapping for the dimension build, and also we go to associate the outline, which outline we're going to use. Okay, and if you want to clear the existing data, then we go to update the settings. Okay, so all the properties we go to update in the role file once we have set up the properties. Okay, so before setting up the properties, we got to open the source file to create the mapping. Okay, so just go to the file and click on the open data file. So the data file will be available in the space or some other shared folder. Okay, so from there you go to copy to the rule file. Okay, so the files will be available in file system or in the space server. Okay, so you go to select that file and import into the rule file. Once the file is open, the rule file, the format looks like this. Okay, all the records are mapped into field 1. Okay, because we haven't provide any delimiter properties in that rule file. Okay, so once we imported that data file, we go to set up that data source properties. Here I provide that delimiter and header details. If there is any, if the data source file has any header, you go to set up that. Okay, otherwise the space will try to load the header also. So I go set up the delimiter, and if it's a custom delimiter, you go to set up that, and I'm providing how many lines I go to skip. And if there is any records containing header name, if there is no header, then you go to mark it as 0. Okay, so we go to provide all the details in the data source properties. And if you want to ignore any transaction, just you can ignore that. Now I go set up the delimiter, and based on the delimiter, all that records are moved to the specific field. Okay, if you look at that source file, right, there are pipe for delimiter. So based on the pipe delimiter, it's moved to that each field. Okay. Now I have imported the data source file, and after that I have to update the data load fields. This is one. This is for the data load properties, and next one is for the dimension properties. Using the same rule file, we can perform both the data load and also dimension build. For example, today I am loading this data. Okay, I'm loading this data into Airspace, and next day I'm getting some new transaction with for the product 3, product 4. If you enable only the data load properties in that rule file, it will load the data and it will skip this product 4. Okay, but this data also should be loaded into Airspace application. So for that, we have to include both data load properties and also the dimension load properties in the same role file. So if there is any new records comes in from the source system, it will add that member into outline, and after that it will import the data. So there won't be any kickouts, there won't be any rejection. That's data load. That's why we got both options in the same rule file: data load field and the dimension build rule. Okay, so these are global properties for the data load and dimension build. Like we go to provide the case, whether it comes, we go to change it to lowercase or uppercase. And if you want to replace any member, just we can use the replace options. Okay. Okay. So here I'm updating the data load properties. This is for the field number one. Okay. If you look at the rule file, right, it says field one, field two, right? So for the field one, I have to provide the mapping. So the field one belongs to entity or account. So based on that mapping, we go to select the appropriate dimension. If it's field one belongs to account, I go to set up that account. Okay. And if it is field one belongs to some other dimension, I go to set up that in that data load properties. Similarly, I go to set up the same properties in dimension builds properties. Okay.
Okay.
So here the field one belongs to version, and for example, field 8 belongs to some other, maybe it may be the period or something. And also there will be a field, uh, there will be properties to set up the data. We go to specify which field has the data field. Okay. So it looks very complicated, but when you start working on the rule file, right, yeah, it looks very easy one. Okay. It's not a complicated one. Just you go to perform the mapping, like we are trying to provide some import format to load the data. That's it. Okay. So here we have the data load setting, like we are specifying whether we have to override the existing values or add to the existing values. Okay. And if you want to subtract, just we can select the subtract from the existing values. Okay. And in the clear data comparison, for example, if we are loading the data for F821, okay, and next day also we are loading the data for the same year and month. In that case, we go to clear the existing data and reload the data from the source file. Okay. But if you don't want to clear any data, just you don't need to specify anything. So just you go to provide the point of view clear data company. So this is for the dimension build properties. Already we go set up the data load properties, and in the dimension build properties, we go to map that field one to the specific member. It's similar to the data load properties. But in the bottom, there will be an option where whether we go to do only the data load or the dimension build. Okay. If you want to do both tasks at the same time, you don't need to enable anything. By default, it's includes both the data load and the dimension build. And this is for the global settings for dimension build. Okay. So just we are creating the mapping for each and every field. Okay. So here we discussed that we can add one new member to the outline. Okay. And this product 4 is comes under the member, the dimension called product. Product has product 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. And in some cases, I want to create a new hierarchy under the product. Okay. Maybe under the product, I have another one, market something. Okay. So the product 4 should be moved to market hierarchy. Okay. Still, the
Okay.
product 4 is a level 0 member of the product, but we are creating some new hierarchy for the product 4. Okay. So if we want to do that through that rule file, we go to select this option, allow moves. Okay. If we don't enable that allow moves, it won't move that the product 4 to the market or something. Okay. So it's based on our requirement. We are updating the existing member setting. We can allow moves, allow property change. If we want to update some LAS for that specific product, we can enable allow property changes. And also if there is any member formula, we can enable allow formula changes. Okay. And if there is any attributes members, we can enable that. Allow association changes, do not create any members. Okay. And once we set up all the dimension build setting, we go to provide the build method. We already discussed about the generation uh, level reference and parent child reference. You remember in the outline we discussed about that position of the members. Okay, so based on the position,
Correct.
we can use that build method, whether it's based on the generation based or the level 0 or the parent child. If it is a parent child method, we go to provide parent and its child member in the source file. So this source file has a parent child reference. For each parent, we have that few children. Okay, so based on the reference, we will be loading the data. If it is
Okay.
generation, there won't be any parent details. Only here we'll be having all the generation details. So and also we will be having some generation reference in the source file. So based on the generation reference, it will import that data. Okay. And also we can add a sibling or member with the matching string, add as a sibling of the lower level. So mostly we will be using that parent and child reference. Okay, it's very easy to load the data. Okay, now I go design the role file to import the data, and after that I go to validate it. Okay, if there is any mappings are missing, it will give some errors. So we go to fix that. So here is the option to verify the rule file. So now the rule file is ready for the data load. Okay. Okay. So once we created the data load rule file, next step is to import the data using that rule file. If you right click on the database, we go the option to load the data. Okay. So just right click on the database and select load data. And once you selected that data load, it will open the data load window. Okay. So here we go the find data file option, find rule file, and we can insert multiple data load rule, and we can delete if we don't want anything. Okay, first I'm trying to locate the my source file. Just click on the find data file, and it will ask for that location. We go to provide that location and the file details. Okay, so I am selecting that file here, and next I go to provide the rule file which we have created. Just click on the find rule file, and it will provide the list of rule file we have created in the Essbase. Okay, so we go to select a specific rule file and click on OK. Okay, so now I have provided the data file details and also rule file details, and also I have to provide that the mode, whether I have to load the data or I have to build the dimension, or I have to process both the data and the dimension. If I want to do the both task, then I have to use both the data load and build method. Okay, so I have set up that all these data load properties, and also you can provide the log file. If there is any errors, you can see it in the logs. Okay,
Yeah.
so I have set up all the details and just clicking on OK. Okay. And now it's performed that data load. Okay. So based on our setting, it's import the data into Essbase application. Here you will be seeing that progress, and once it's success, it says success. Okay. And if there is any error, we go to check it in the log file. Okay. And this is how we load the data using that role file. It's a manual task in that Essbase console. But If you're doing it on the daily basis or you want to automate something, maybe you can write a Maxwell script to call this rule file and import the data. Okay, just you go to call the patch file to execute all this process. You don't need to run it every day to import the data. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. And if you want to clear the data, just right click on the database and you can select all data to clear the data. It will clear the entire data block from the Essbase application. Okay. So before you clearing the data, make sure that you go take a backup of the data.
Okay. Yeah, before clear.
Yeah. We can see currently we are manually providing the data source file, right? The flat files. Just we are searching for some flat file and importing it. Okay. But if you are using that Oracle database, we can directly call that tables in that rule file. Okay. We can make some direct integration between that Essbase and that Oracle database and import the data. So in that rule file, you go to provide that table details and user and password. So it will directly connect to the Oracle database and fetch the records to the Essbase applications. Okay, you don't need to provide that flat file details every time. So that's also possible. So that's
Yeah,
we
if it
call
is a
it as
database. Okay.
yeah, we call it as a SQL data source. And also we can directly integrate with OBA. That's it.